Eclipse Protocol, script, section 1/6,000 words. The silence above Earth had never been absolute until now. Satellites circling the planet went blind in a single breath, their transmissions severed as if swallowed by an unseen mouth. Cities below still glimmered with their restless neon, unaware that in the higher vaults of the atmosphere, something immense had folded into place. Military observatories scrambled with uncalibrated data, radar screens streaking with shadows that refused to hold form, as if the sky itself was bending. Governments rushed codes into their underground channels, and among them 3 words reappeared for first time in 4 decades. Eclipse Protocol activated. In the capital's subterranean control chamber, the weight of those words pressed against the air. The chamber itself was built for silence, thick concrete muffling the constant hum of war outside. Dozens of operators hunched over glowing consoles, their hands trembling not from fatigue, but from a recognition that this was not a drill. Colonel Armin Varick, his uniform still carrying the dust of a desert operation from the previous night, strode into the chamber. His voice, though steady, was raw with urgency. Give me visual confirmation. But confirmation was impossible. Every image feed returned corrupted, a lattice of static and inverted colors. Only one frame managed to pierce through, a black disk blotting out the upper limb of the sun, haloed by fractured light, lingering longer than any natural eclipse could. And surrounding that disk were shapes, angular, precise, not born of nature but of intention. The colonel clenched his jaw. He knew enough of classified history to recognize this. The Eclipse Protocol had been drafted not for nuclear war, not for civil collapse, but for one scenario alone. Contact, not the hopeful contact the public imagined with gleaming ambassadors of the stars, but the silent descent of structures too massive and deliberate to be explained away. Above the chamber, the city breathed in its evening routine, screens alive with irrelevant news, children trailing their parents home, lovers meeting under dim street lamps. And then the lights flickered, first once, then again, until entire districts blinked into blackness. The laughter on sidewalks fell quiet. Generators failed to kick in. A deeper darkness rolled overhead, not from clouds or from something that moved slower, vaster, eclipsing every source of starlight. At that moment, a frequency whispered through every abandoned radio, every powered-down phone, every speaker in the city, a soundless vibration, not heard but felt, like the pressure before an earthquake. The people clutched their ears without knowing why. Glass trembled. The ground seemed to hesitate in its spin. Inside the chamber, alarms shrieked, monitors flaring with untranslatable symbols. Linguists rushed to decode, but each attempt produced only fractures of logic. Numbers without pattern, word without grammar, a message that was less communication than a test. Someone whispered that maybe the intruders were listening for who was worthy to reply. Colonel Varick slammed his hand onto the central console. Seal the perimeter. Initiate deep shelters. No signals out. His officers obeyed, but they moved with the weight of a truth pressing into them. Sealing the city meant nothing if the threat was already above them, filling the sky with a shadow that reached into every human nerve. Meanwhile, far from the capital, in a rural observatory tucked into the mountains, a young astrophysicist named Lyra Cade watched the blackout unfold. Her personal telescope, not connected to any network, showed her what the military feeds had failed to. The silhouette of craft unlike anything she had seen in years of mapping stars. It was not a single ship, but a constellation of machines, folding into each other like segments of an ancient mechanism, each piece glimmering with faint blue veins. They moved with the elegance of inevitability, not rushing, not announcing, only arranging themselves in silence, as if they had been waiting for Earth to finally look up. Lyra felt a chill that no cold wind could bring. She remembered fragments of declassified notes she once stumbled upon. Rumors of an abandoned project in the 60s, scientists who spoke of a pattern in solar eclipses, an external timing device hidden in cycles of light and shadow. They were dismissed as dreamers, their work buried. Yet here it was, materializing above her with merciless precision. She whispered into her recorder, though she doubted anyone would ever hear it. The Eclipse Protocol was never ours. It was theirs. Back in the capital, networks died city by city. Airliners hung frozen on runways. Oceans carried a hum that disturbed the whales, driving them to breach in frenzy. Farmers in distant plains saw their livestock collapse without wounds, their eyes wide as if staring into something beyond human sight. Everywhere, the world slowed, not in time but in purpose, like a great mechanism being paused. And then, for the first time, the intruders broke silence. Across every sky appeared a line of burning light, sharp as if carved with a blade. It stretched horizon to horizon, unbroken, unwavering. It was not lightning. It was a boundary. Humanity stood on one side. Something else waited on the other. Colonel Varick gave the order to scramble air defenses. Missiles streaked upward, but each vanished before detonation, dissolved in the same silence that had devoured the satellites. One pilot's last transmission was not words, but a scream cut mid-breath. The colonel closed his eyes, realizing that aggression had already been calculated, neutralized, predicted. This was no battle. It was an unveiling. Underground, the youngest officer whispered to herself, "We were never the center of a story." Her words went unheard, but they were true. For decades, humanity had written legends of alien arrival, invasion or salvation, always casting themselves as the pivotal characters. But the sky above showed no recognition of such ego. The constructs arranging overhead were neither enemies nor saviors. They were executioners of design older than language, indifferent to the pleas of those below. On the mountainside, Lyra adjusted her telescope again, her pulse hammering. She saw markings etched across the massive hulls, not in paint but in the very weave of their structure, symbols that shimmered only when aligned with the sun's corona. They formed a sequence. She sketched feverishly, her hand trembling, until the shapes revealed what she feared. Not a message, but a lock, a mechanism waiting to be turned. She realized with horror that Earth itself might be the key.